We're the Lopez brothers, and I did 10 years in prison.
I did 12 years in prison. Usually we have the idea that criminals are spawned out of a bad family and maybe dad was an alcoholic, my mother was this or that. But honestly, am I right or wrong, our parents actually were good people, hardworking people. Financially speaking, we had to be in certain neighborhoods. We saw people in the neighborhood that were dealing drugs, that were involved in a lot of things. And I really believe that our parents taught us from the beginning, but one thing is to learn in what we see, and then the love of money. You don't wake up one morning and say, I'm gonna go kidnap somebody, I'm gonna pull a gun on somebody. I think it was a process. And once you cross the line, you break a taboo, then you go to the next one. And we don't need to get overly religious and spiritual, but there is an enemy, there is a devil, and he takes advantage of that. So at the age of 11, I started doing a lot of drugs. I started smoking a lot of marijuana, and at the age of 12, I was already doing cocaine. So what happens? You actually cross the line in a certain area, and it escalates and it escalates, and that's how we ended up in prison. We connected with some people where we would actually hijack a truck, tie up the driver. Me and my brother would actually put him in a van. We had a driver because I don't know how to drive 18-wheelers, and he would take the truck to a warehouse. They would empty the truck, and when they were done emptying, getting all the merchandise, they'd call us on radios, two-way radios, and we'd allow the driver to leave. We'd leave him in the forest or an alligator alley in Miami or whatever. And by the time he got back to a phone, everyone had gone home.
Your simple armed robbery, all of a sudden escalating to now warehouse where you're kidnapping and tying people up for their, for their money and for the merchandise. But when I faced all these 57 capital offenses and saw myself never seeing the street again, I actually paid 2 boxes of cigarettes for a shank and a special blade to take my own life because I was completely tired. I was overwhelmed and burdened.
2 weeks after I get incarcerated, I noticed that there was this big guy with this big tattoo, and he would get together about 20, 25 inmates in the cell that we were at, and they would do a Bible study. Now, mind you, I always thought that a Christian was a weak man. That's for old ladies and children to go to church. It caught my attention because we used to make fun of Christian people. And here is this man who had respect from all the killers, robbers, and rapists in the cell, and also from the guards. That caught my attention. This was a different type of Christian that I met. He was real. He, by the way, was there for a capital murder, but he had come to know the Lord. So we got together one day and he tells me, you know what, there is a calling on your life. And I said, what is he talking about? But I remember he said it with such authority and with such conviction. Something touched me in here and I started weeping. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Why am I weeping this way?
God in his infinite wisdom, there was a bunkie who was ministering to me the word, and I was just rejecting it. But one day he left the Bible and I opened it up with all that worry and burden and cares. And I said, now, let's see if this is real. And I opened up the Bible to Matthew 11:28. And he said, all those who are heavy laden and burdened, come to me and I shall give you rest. And since that day, nothing has been the same.
I'm convinced now as I look back, the Spirit of God actually was doing his work through this man. All my justifications, my rationalization for why I did things were shattered. And here I'm left with the shell of a man hurting and saying, God, I need your help. I really believe that a lot of people need to be in a certain situation for them to look up and say, God, here I am. What do I do next?
My life today, by the grace of God, I am in the prison ministry. I minister in 7 different prisons throughout South Florida. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to be utilized for something like that for the kingdom. I can't explain it. No sex, no drug can replace being used by God for the kingdom.
As we know, the calling and the purpose of God takes you different routes. Do we know all the details? Of course not. I will tell you this. I've never been so excited and happier in my life than to serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So what does the future bring? In 3 more years, I'll be 60 years old. My God, I'm getting older now. But I've been serving the Lord since the year 1996. And by the way, I know there are people that are watching that had drug problems and so on. It's been 23 years that I don't touch any narcotic whatsoever. I went to rehabs and all kinds of programs. I remember even acupuncture, and I couldn't put down the drugs. But then a man from Galilee stepped into the picture, and it's been 23 years.
I have a saying that sin takes you further than you want to go, keeps you there longer than you want to stay, and definitely costs you more than you want to pay. 12 years is a small price to pay for salvation.
That's right.